Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of CarnivorousGrama Speaks Women of Wisdom series. Tonight, I am super excited to have with me Coach Rose AJ. And hi, Rose. Welcome. So, before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and share my scripture. This series is called Women of Wisdom. And the scripture that's associated with it is Proverbs 14:1, which says, "A wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands." And I love this scripture, especially for the days that I'm talking with women who have decided to take control of their own health, their own physical house. And of course, we know that women oftentimes are the primary provider of food and nutrition for the family. So a wise woman building her physical house, and building her natural house using food is absolutely incredible. So this is why I love the scripture for the series. I always read it because it's so important to me that we as women learn what the right thing to do, and when we know better, we do better.
Yeah.
So, Coach Rose, I just want to welcome you to the show. Super excited to finally get to know you and get to meet you and chat with you. So I would love it if you would just take a moment and just introduce yourself.
Hi, Miss Robin. Thank you so much for having me. Like I had mentioned earlier, I tend to get a little butterflies going live and stuff like that, but I love to talk and I love to share my story. So thank you for having me here today and to get to know you better as well. So I'm Rose AJ, and I'm from the Pacific Northwest, outside of Seattle in Tacoma, Washington. And my story began almost immediately at birth. And how I found carnivore, it was through the ketogenic diet and me relapsing over and over and over on my dietary protocol. And I went into carnivore in January 2020. And is there anything else you want me to share, Miss Robin? So do you want me to take it all the way back to birth, girl?
Sorry, I went on mute. I went on mute to give you a chance to speak. But I do want to dig a little bit more into those relapses, but just tell us a little bit about your story. How was it with your growing up, with as far as your relationship with food, and how did you end up wanting or needing to do a carnivore diet?
All right, so we're going to go really back to birth. So, from birth forward to about 3.5 years old, a lot was unknown. So, my natural mother, my biological mother, I never knew her. My biological father, I was raised with his mother, which was my grandmother, and some aunts for the first 3.5 years of my life. And I always loved food, like mayonnaise sandwiches, mustard sandwiches. This is way back in the day and stuff. But I always remembered eating. But around 3.5, I had childhood trauma. I'll just leave it at that, childhood trauma from 3.5 to about 17 and a half that occurred. And I remember as being 3.5 eating petroleum jelly, raw
Mm.
ground beef, and dog food, right? So that was the start of my disordered eating, which later turned into an eating disorder around 12. So I used it as a coping mechanism. Everything that I turned to was food related. Um, Very turbulent childhood. And so moving on to about 12 years old, me and two cousins decided to go on a diet. So at that point in time, I started using X-Lax, Dexatrim, drinking Tab, doing the binging, the starving, the whole nine. And my addiction had actually started then too, with sugar. I related through everything with sugar. So Robin, I don't know if you remember being a child, being sent to church and whatnot, and you're given a quarter. So I would stop off at at the store and buy penny candy, the Jolly Ranchers and the Now Laters and stuff. So all of my money that was supposed to go for offerings went to food immediately. When I would babysit, I wouldn't really watch the children. I would just raid their cabinets and eat all the junk food, all the cereal and whatnot. I never had actual food growing up because I didn't like to eat, but I liked junk food. So
Mhm.
24/7, it was junk food. And I was not large as a child. I was probably malnourished, if you want to call it that, malnourished, emaciated and whatnot. And my actual weight did not start and stick until I was about 20 after I delivered my daughter. So, with all that being said, I never got off of the diet roller coaster. My thoughts were continually consumed with being overweight, underweight, not eating enough. Can I get this? Can I do that? So, it really messed with my mental health. And I
Mhm.
was just really obsessed. And then out of that came other addictions. Food was always my first love, but the interactive disorder came into play very quickly. So every
Wow.
everything through sugar and food.
Yeah, and I think, I was sitting here thinking as you were talking, I don't know if you know this, but I have 11 grandkids, and they're so, so important to me. But when you think about how disordered eating starts in childhood with all of the obsessive snacking, because food is so highly addictive, the processed food is so highly addictive. And I think about these kids all the time and how concerned I am with that. I mean, just what you were talking about, that disordered eating and the relationship with food starting so very young, even from birth, right? Where we're giving our
Mhm.
children sugar, the formula is sugar based.
Yeah.
So from the very moment that they're born and they start taking these processed foods is when those addictions start, the sugar addiction. And so that's so, so concerning to me. I was thinking about the fact that I had totally forgotten about Dexatrim.
Right.
Totally forgotten
Right.
about Dexatrim. But yeah, I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
I think you and I are in the same age range. I'm
Yeah.
58. And yes, when I was in junior high school, Dexatrim was a thing, you know,
Mhm.
and it was like everybody trying to lose weight, and so, so challenging. So, the sugar addiction is so, so powerful. And I heard you say that that led to other addictive types of behaviors as well.
Yeah. So, Robin, for me, so I had a lot of compulsions, right? A lot of compulsions because during living at home, when I was at home, so to speak, quote unquote, it was just, I was just on edge the whole time. But being out in public space, school, or with other people, it was a little bit calmer. But when I was at home, I needed food all the time. And can you repeat your question? I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
Just talking about how the sugar addiction leads
Yeah.
to other types of addictions as
Yes.
well.
So it leads to other addictions. For me, it was like my hair. I became really obsessed with my hair. I needed fresh hairstyles constantly, which is not necessarily unusual in the Black community. But
That's
I was
true.
on a schedule with myself, right? I was just like, I would get stressed out if I didn't have my braids done every 6 weeks, or if I didn't have a new wig or a haircut or whatever. So it started with food, then hair. I never did drugs, street drugs or prescription drugs at all. So that wasn't an issue. As a matter of fact, it terrified me. So I didn't go down that road. But as far
Yeah.
as
Mhm.
alcohol, I sampled, dibbled and dabbled alcohol around 18, 19. And it just never did anything for me. But then I got the exercise thing going once I figured out about exercise at around 20 after I had my daughter. Didn't lose any weight, 300 pounds, large and in charge, but I got hooked, right? I got hooked. And then shopping was always in the background as well from like maybe 10, 12 years old. Always shopping. I used to steal things if I couldn't get them. I would steal candy, I would steal food, whatever, but I would also steal clothes. I'm just being very candid. So
Mhm.
Shopping is up there. I can't think of anything else, but just lots of things that kind
Well,
of
there's some kind of
overlapped.
dopamine hit that comes with that excitement of,
Yeah,
taking something that doesn't belong to you,
yeah,
and
yeah,
then also just the desire to wanna have things. I wanna
mhm,
have this.
yes.
And so that is definitely it makes a lot of sense that that would be, a one of the areas that could spiral out of control,
Mhm.
with addiction. So I, on the other hand, did try the drugs, went on down the road
Um,
on that. So that was like a nightmarish part of my life. So I'm thankful for you that drugs did not come into play. But all those other things, and I think it's, we think about I think it's Dr. Georgia Ede that wrote the book about change your diet, change your mind, and how the mind
Absolutely.
is so impacted by the sugars and carbohydrates that we're consuming,
Mhm.
and all of these types of addictive behaviors that come from our minds just being soaked in sugar.
Well,
So
but Robin, when you say that you did the drug thing, actually, I was a drug addict, but with food, with sugar, right? So even though it's a different vehicle, it's still the same disease.
it
It just
is.
shows up
Absolutely.
differently, right? It just shows up differently. And
Exactly.
so I'm curious, did you go to treatment for yours or did you abruptly stop?
Yes, I did. I went to treatment for 30 days. And I'm sorry, was it 30 days or 90 days? 90-day treatment program. And since then, I have been clean from drugs, and that's been like 30 years or something. It's been a really long time ago. Um,
Nice.
but the addictive behavior, the addictive personality is still
Mhm.
there.
Yeah,
It's still
yeah.
there, and it's really, really controlled by removing sugar from my diet. So, I would get completely obsessed with things. I had, kinda like what you talk about with the obsessive thinking and all of that. But yes, I did go to treatment for drug
Okay,
addiction. Mhm.
okay. And curious, did other things pick up after you went through that? So I always try to tell people is that when people have addiction, it's a brain disease. It's a brain disease. And if we're not aware, there's other things that come into play. So that's why I'm so
Yes.
candid about mine, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So was food in your background as far as once you finished with then food? Okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, I always thought I was fat from a little girl, it was those little things that people would say. And I think I told you this, that, like, my sister, who is 2 years younger than me, I was always bigger than her. Well, it makes sense because I was 2 years older than her, but people would comment about how I was chubby, or they would point out my little tummy, or, things like that. So that kind of led me down the road of thinking that I was fat all my life. So I was, similar to you, I was on the roller coaster of diets, doing all the diets, and trying to lose weight my whole life, basically from the age of 11.
Yeah.
So, but food definitely was a thing that I could use,
Mhm.
I could use food, and it makes you feel better. When what do they do when it's your birthday? They give you a cake. When you're a 1 year old, they give a baby a whole cake to smash and eat
Yes.
their own
Yeah.
selves. There's the comfort food, the mashed potatoes and the gravy. Those things are comforting because of the sugar.
The
It makes you
carbohydrates.
feel
Yes.
good. It makes you feel
Yes.
good.
Yes.
So, yeah, so food was one of those things. I was obsessed with in fear, like severe, severe anxiety and fear of everything. So that kind of is where my addictive type of personality came out, and then obsession with doing different diets. Um, even the carnivore diet. I mean, because I could do a diet, any diet, just name one, I
Right?
can do it.
Yes. That's crazy that we are so, I mean, it's like the diet brain sticks with us no matter how healthy
Mhm.
we are eating, right? How healthy
Right.
we're eating. You said that yours showed up as anxiety, mine showed up as depression, right?
Mm,
Continual depression, continual depression, continual depression.
yeah.
However, with that being said, what I thought was helping my depression wasn't actually helping my depression because
Okay.
the sugar highs and lows, and just
Lovely.
not having that stable mood or that stable source of energy until the last like 5 years. So, yeah,
Right. So I want to just kind of come up to a little bit further to
sure.
talk a little bit about keto, because I know that you did the keto diet. Can you tell us a bit about your experience with keto and how you ended up all the way at carnivore?
So, just really quickly, Robin, in 2018, June of 2018, shortly before my 51st birthday, I had hit my ultimate rock bottom, meaning that, I had the house, I had the career, the granddaughters were here, and I was really like 238 pounds. And I was just like, oh my goodness, perimenopause, menopause, the whole nine. My daughter was selling exogenous ketones. Okay.
Mm,
And I had literally hit rock bottom and said, well, I guess I'm supposed to be fat. Right. Which I knew wasn't true because I couldn't stop trying. I knew I couldn't stop trying. But the thought of moving to Hawaii and holding a sign saying, I will work for $5 today was really like heavenly, but not
mm,
reality. But in the
right.
long run, what I ended up doing was my daughter was selling exogenous ketones, had never heard of them. And I thought, oh, this is just one more pill, one more thing that I can do in order to lose weight. Robin, I ended up spending thousands of dollars on the supplement, first and foremost, to support her and her business. But secondly, because I thought that this would be the ride that I needed. Now, lo and behold, I found out that our body could actually make its own ketones. So why am I paying all this money? But even
Right.
though I knew that, I still continued to buy the ketones. And with 6 months of research, I finally decided to go ahead and give it a shot. December 2nd, 2018, I started intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet. But what I found with the ketogenic diet was is that I kept relapsing, meaning that they say that you can have a handful of nuts, keep your carbs under a certain thing. I kept relapsing in the sense that a handful of nuts became 2 canisters of nuts, and I wouldn't eat other food, right? And the processed foods that you're allowed to eat on the ketogenic diet kept me in that loop, kept me in that spiral. So I might go 5, 6 days perfectly, keeping my numbers under 50 grams because I was using 50 grams and net carbs and then doing the whole carb thing, just playing games with myself. And then finally in January of 2020, I said, okay, girl, we're just going to go this route and go carnivore. So I ended up losing about 23 pounds in 2 months. I hit my all time low as an adult in March of 2020. What had happened was I stopped obsessing. What had happened was I got better. What had happened was I quit playing games.
Yeah.
But then Easter showed up, and I go, oh, I'm going to take a day off or two for Easter to imbibe and do all this stuff. When I say imbibe, not alcohol, but
Yeah.
imbibe in the pastries and the festivities and stuff. That sent me on another loop. It took me a couple of days to get back
Mm,
on. So, with this process, committing to carnivore, I relapsed several times, but my last organized binge was August 20th of 2020 because by then I was in Benton Janssen's class who
mm,
she has the sugar assessment where takes you all the way back to childhood, shows you where you started using food and sugar and whatnot. Then I finally understood and I came out of denial. I spent the rest of 2020, August through December 2020, doing carnivore, had peace even through the holidays. January 1st came. Guess what, Robin? I was like, girl, the doctors are telling you, on YouTube, the Dr. Bergs, I love him dearly, so don't get me wrong, I'm not slamming him. But the
yeah.
Dr. Bergs of the world and, society is telling me that I need a broader palette. So I tried for 6 months to
Yeah.
reintroduce foods like the avocados, the blackberries, the blueberries back into my diet. And guess what? I kept relapsing. And then finally in June of 2021, I threw my hands up and said, God, I am carnivore girl for
More
life.
alive.
Ride or die. Ride or die. But
Love
I
it.
had to go through the process to see what was and what is possible for me, right? So
Yeah.
I know what to stay away from, to abstain from completely. I'm not a moderator by any means. So keto would probably be great for some people, but not for me because I go balls to the walls and go crazy with just one bite. So it doesn't work.
Same. Same here. Your story sounds so familiar. I mean, I did the absolute same thing. I did Atkins way back in 20 in the like 2020.
Mhm.
I did the Atkins diet. The Atkins induction phase was like the truth. It was like, this is the way that I need to be eating. I felt amazing on it. That's like 20 carbs or less. But then you're supposed to try to climb the carb ladder. You're supposed to start reintroducing foods. I too, I mean, I didn't call it relapsing, but what I would say is I'm going to turn around in 2 years and I'm going to have to start over every time. If I eat something that's off my plan, I will turn around 2 years later. I'll have gained back all my weight, and I'm going to be like, man, why did I do that to myself 2 years ago?
Yeah. Yes, yes. And then it's like the voice of denial, like, it's okay. I can
Yep,
stretch it this time. These 3 days will be fine. But what does that remind you of? Somebody that goes off on an alcoholic binge or a drug binge or
yep,
whatever that goes on a bender for three or
no
four
problem.
days. You're justifying it. It's the addict brain, right? So,
Exactly.
nah, I'm good.
Me
Safeway,
too.
wherever I'm shopping, I'm good.
Yeah, and it's so funny because, like, my family will talk to me, they're like people don't understand why I have to be so strict. I have to be so strict because I know what happens. I mean, the last thing that got me was some sweet corn. I deserve this because it's summer. And I live in Michigan, and they have the most amazing sweet corn here, and I really deserve this. And then I could not get back on keto. I couldn't get back on it. And so the first time I've ever really experienced the food freedom in this way has been on carnivore, where I don't have to, I don't have any desire to have, like, it's summer right now. I'm not like, oh, I want to try some sweet corn. Oh, I need some strawberries. I need watermelon. I don't need any of those things. And so, yeah, so that relapsing thing is so familiar. It sounds exactly like my story too. That
Yeah.
you try to reintroduce this and reintroduce that. And some of us just cannot tolerate the
Yeah.
carbohydrates. So
You
I
know,
feel happy for people who can do keto and be successful in the long term. But I found that it was not sustainable for me for the long term.
so I want to say that for me, I don't think it's so much the carbs as the source of the carbs versus
Mm,
anything, right? So if they're processed and they're made to be addictive, I'm the first person. So in September of 2021, here we go again. I said, girl, you've been on carnivore and you mentioned the word deserve. I said,
mhm.
oh, let me try this Quest. Are you familiar with Quest?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
the Quest bars.
The
I
devil,
said,
those are the devil.
well, girl, let me tell you, I don't know what had happened, but I think it might have been like my birthday or something, or I had a really hard training. And I was like, okay, I'll just have my meat and I'll have these Quest bars, right? So, with that being said, I like to do my budget and be real with it. So I shop at Costco, but I was at Fred Meyer. I'm not going to buy just one bar when I can buy four in a box for only $2 more. So what did I do? I bought four in a box. I said, I'll have all four in one sitting and I'll have my meat on the side because calorie wise, carbohydrate wise, the whole nine. So I ate them, Robin. Guess what? That was on a Friday, and the reason I remember it was on a Friday is because I had Saturday long run trainings with my group. Saturday morning I woke up, I had vertigo. I had never had vertigo in my life. as a result of eating those 4 bars. Then I tried to wait it out. I couldn't go to my training. I waited until about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I got in the car, which I probably shouldn't have, to be quite honest, because I was still a little loopy. But
Mm-hmm.
I got on the road and drove on the road versus the freeway to Costco just because I needed to get out and get some air. But that taught me a lesson. What's good for one body is not good for everybody. And what was
Right.
good for me 6 months ago when I was just in the it storm is not
Mm-hmm.
good now because I've cleared the deck. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Exactly. That's so interesting about the vertigo.
yeah.
I've dealt with vertigo like my whole life pretty much. But recently I had a bout with it and I was like, what did I eat that caused this?
Hmm.
And I really think it was seed oil. I really think so. So those Quest bars are they're ultra palatable. They're
Yes,
so delicious. Like, I could see
yes,
how you could sit and eat 4 of those in one sitting
yeah,
because they're
yeah.
very, very delicious. And I think they're designed that way to be super addictive. So,
Right, right. So,
yeah.
yeah, and it's amazing how our bodies give us feedback once it's been
Mhm.
cleaned out and it's adjusted. Any
Yes.
little difference I pick up on and I don't repeat it again. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But that
that's
was a
wise.
major one.
That is wise, yeah. I stay
Yeah.
away from all of those kinds of things. I realize that I can't really do, um, some, like, there's these beef sticks, they're called chomps. I don't
Mm,
know what is in that particular. It's a very clean beef stick. Everybody talks about how good they are, and they're clean, they don't have very many ingredients, but if I eat that, it causes my IBS to flare back up immediately. So the body will really, really when you get everything cleared out, like you just said,
mhm,
the
mhm.
body's gonna say, "No, I don't like this," and
Right.
let you know right away. Don't do that
Yes.
again.
And for me, it's Nick sticks, which is the same as chops. But for some reason,
Mhm.
I'll eat Nick sticks one after the other, after the other, after the other. So I don't have any beef sticks in my house at all because of that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
no. Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
it's funny. The body's an amazing machine. I absolutely love it. So, I wanna talk about, like, the results that you have had since you've been on a carnivore way of eating. Can you talk us through some of
Yes.
that?
Yeah. So at my highest weight, Robin, I'm 6 feet tall. I was 300 pounds. The scale topped out, and I could have been over that at one point in time. After I finally got off the yo-yo roller coaster and whatnot, there was a period of time where I had sustained 110-pound weight loss in my life, but I was compulsive with it. I wrote everything down and I kept binging like 2 or 3 times a week. And I would
Mm,
over exercise to compensate. And then that was back in my 30s up until 40 something when perimenopause hit. So the results that I've gotten physically, exercise has always been in my life since 20. But the results that I've gotten was, I think it was like 63 pounds lost and sustained without issue. And the mental benefits alone is well worth it. I've stopped the obsession. I'm very structured. I've always been very structured and I like structure, rules, regulations, whatever. But there's just like a calmness. A calmness. It's almost to the point where, oh, I really don't care. Yeah, no problem. Right. And then when things that used to send me over the edge, it's like I don't have energy for that. I don't have energy for that. So I have a lot of zen in a lot of places I never experienced
yes.
before. Yeah.
It's amazing. The carnivore zen is something
Yeah.
for any of you guys out here who are not yet on a carnivore diet and you're thinking about it, considering it, the carnivore zen that people talk about is so powerful. It is like your brain just relaxing.
Yes. Yes.
I know I found like
Mm.
I didn't even realize how how busy my brain was until that carnivores then hit after about 30, 60, 90 days on carnivore, and it was like, "Oh, wow." This is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Can I also share with you some of the vices that I've had forever and a day that I've recently given up? And I am so proud of myself. And I can say that this is honestly due to carnivore because so with like counting calories, doing my macros, the whole nine. So I only do one meal a day. I discovered like 2 months into the ketogenic diet and whatnot that OMAD was my best move because I like to feel full and I don't want to be bothered with having to think about it again. So, going from carrying like suitcases of food and water and stuff to work for entertainment, for solace, and everything for years on end, going to work with absolutely nothing but my water bottle is very freeing. So, also with the hairstyles until just this year, Ramen. Mother's Day of just this year, I was still continually wearing different wigs. And I have a lot of alopecia and whatnot, different wigs, different braids, and weaves and whatnot. So I decided to challenge myself on Mother's Day forward to September the 1st, my birthday tomorrow, to not wear any wigs,
Happy
weaves, or
birthday!
braids. Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't know tomorrow
To
was your
do,
birthday.
girl, I'll be 57.
Everybody
I'm
say
just a
happy
little bit
birthday
young.
to Rose in the chat.
Oh, thank you. So I decided maybe 2 months into doing that, oh, I'm not going to go back to the wigs, weaves, and braids anymore, right? So I'm just twisting my hair and I'm actually loving my hair and the way I look. So that was one
You look
thing. And then my,
amazing.
thank you. And then another thing is the acrylic nails. I love, love, love my acrylic nails. And I'm like, okay, girl, let's just go for this. So I've taken them off and I've come to peace with taking them off and whatnot. And then the third thing, Robin, okay. So let me tell you, I am uber proud of this because you said yours showed up as anxiety, mine showed up as depression. I found out very early on that exercise helped me with my depression. It's a mood adjuster, mood stabilizer, yada, yada, yada. But also around 2023, I started drinking coffee. But when the way I drank coffee back then was with a lot of creamer, a lot of sugar. So I thought it was helping my depression. So unbeknownst to me, it was actually the sugar that was getting me high and keeping me happy. But then I would still have the lows and highs and whatnot. And then when I switched over to this way of life, I started drinking black coffee. So I'm like, I got to have my jam. I don't drink alcohol, da 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 da. So it's the one thing I can show up other than a Pellegrino in hand, right? So on July 23rd, I decided to give up coffee once and for all. So I've done challenges where I've given up coffee for 30 days, 45
Yes.
days, yada, yada, yada. But I said, this time I'm giving it up for good. I'm no longer drinking coffee. The first couple of weeks, it was like, girlfriend, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure because I made it public and I don't go back on my word. And I'm saving like so much money. I used to be a high maintenance person in those areas, but now it's just like, bye, Felicia. So, yeah, so carnivore
Nice.
has helped me have a peace of mind and be okay with me being me, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So, I mean, these kinds of things that are, these obsessions with our outer appearance and things like that can be very, very difficult to give up. They can be. So I'm super proud of you. And the coffee thing, I brought coffee back in after being off of it for like a year I stopped it last year. And then I brought it back in as decaf. But you might inspire me to try again.
Well, for me, I really the couple of times that I've done it as a challenge for myself to remove it, I was like, is this coffee helping me in the way that I think it is, the way it had helped me with my depression in the past, right? And realistically, to tell you, the answer was no. I mean, it helps me to think quicker. It helps me ergogenically when I'm working out. But I've been off of it long enough now that it's like I get the same results regardless. And my attitude is still upbeat. right? So, yeah. So, and I don't think it does any harm if you introduced it back in as decaf or regular or whatnot. It's just a personal choice. But with
Yeah.
me, I just don't want to be addicted to anything
Right.
at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always really enjoyed coffee. And so when I gave it up, it was Dr. Chafee was talking about how if you're drinking coffee and using sweeteners, you need to give that up immediately. One night, like I'm laying in my bed, just trying to mind my own business, Dr. Chafee. And here you come talking about give it up immediately. So I did. I gave it up immediately, and I kept it out for almost a year, and then I brought back in like decaf coffee. So I mean, I'm not having a problem with it or anything, but I know that it's probably not the absolute best thing that I can do for my body. So, so that's the reason that I consider like, do I need it? Do I want it? Do I want to keep it in? Do I want to take it out? Those kinds of things. But I like it. I like coffee, and I found some really good, clean ones recently that are like nice. So, but still, it's a plant, and I know that I do have some issues with plants in general. And I found even more about that recently about having challenges with having plants in my diet. So, so tell us a little bit about your exercise regimen.
You don't want me to start talking because I'll never stop, but I'll just kind of bring it in real quick. So, my exercise regimen is really therapy for me, right? It's therapy. I look good, I feel good, sweating it up and stuff. So, I have a home gym. I go to the gym and I lift weights. I'm constantly in motion. I spin, I do dance classes. I'm on the treadmill, the stepper, the rower here. I do it all. So I'm never without movement. I used to do long distance races, meaning like 50Ks. I did 100K, and then my sweetest spot was the full marathon, right? It was the full marathon and then the half marathon. But so we're in 24. So in 2023, January of 2023, I had to go see an orthopedic specialist because I was having difficulties after a race that I had did the prior fall. And he's like, well, if you need to run, you can run, but you're going to be due for knee replacement sooner rather than later because I didn't have any cartilage there.
Right.
And so I had to make the very adult decision that yes, it gives me a high. Yes, I feel good. Yes, I feel like Superwoman, but surgery is not an option for me. It's not an option unless it's life or death, right? So I
Right.
had to back up off of that. And I do a lot of power walking. I do a lot of coaching. And just so long as I'm moving without the high impact, I'm doing okay. And then last year I got certified as a Zumba instructor, but that didn't work too well for me because, to be quite honest, if I can't understand the music or the lyrics, it kind of threw me off a little bit. And then this year I went through mixed fit certification. It's just a dance. It's a dance. So I had never walked into a class before, Robin. Never walked into a class, had sought out a certification because I think we all need to keep learning something that's extremely difficult to keep our minds online and engaged. So I walked in. The studio had people half my age, maybe 40 was the oldest person. So I walked in, never done this class, did it for 8 hours after completing a partial morning training on the waterfront. And y'all, I have to tell you, I was whooped, but I hung in there. I was the oldest diva in the room. I got my certificate and I took the next day off from work. But it was beautiful. So
That is
anything that
awesome.
involves movement, I do.
So
Yeah.
this leads me to, I want to ask you about being a coach. So I'm assuming that your coaching has something to do with this.
So actually, no. So it just depends. It's a long story, but I do physical training, but that's not my real jam. My real jam is physical training for myself or in groups, but not necessarily leading and supporting clients. Where the coach part shines for me is helping women that are 50 years old and older And since 2020, I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, right? Wanted to do, be a personal coach, a general coach, whatever, but I knew I wanted to serve and support women. But as of January of this year, it was placed on my heart and my mind. And I was like, I'm just going to do carnivore. If people want to come my way, that's great. But hands down, I am a carnivore health, life, and fitness coach, first and foremost. So once I made that declaration within myself, everything else became easier. So I coach women that want to learn about the carnivore way of life that are 50 years old and
That's
older.
awesome. I love that so much. I don't know if you know this, but that is my goal, is to become a health and life coach, nutrition coach in the carnivore space.
Yes.
So I'm actually thinking about getting a certification. I'm trying to decide now what certification I want to get so that I can, it's either going to be like proper human diet coach or like primal. There's a few of them out there. Mind Body Green, there's a few of them. So I haven't decided which one I want to do, but yep, that's my goal.
Can I share with you? Girl, I am the queen of certifications because I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but when I had my breakdown in 2018, God clearly told me that if I stayed in service, because I was a corrections officer and tried to get to my 30-year retirement, that I would not be fully restored, meaning mental health would not be fully restored. I might be in an institution type deal. So when God speaks, guess what? I listen. I listened. There was so much doubt and concern, but I knew that I had to make the move that He was ordering me to make. So in 2019, April of 2019, I left service, but I thought I had a plan, Robin. This is what I thought. I thought I had a plan. I cashed out my retirement. I want people to hear this because it's a part of my testimony that if you find carnivore early enough, you may not have to do this, but I cashed out my retirement so that I could live a few years without having the obligation of employment to pay my bills because it's not a part of me and my husband's setup that one of us is just going to quit working regardless. So, with that being said, I spent about $60,000 between 2019 up to today on certifications. And I say that very proudly, because some people go to therapy, some people go to their families and pastors for support and, to help them get through their trying times. The only way that I knew how to do is with self help since a child. There was nobody there for me. I needed help. So I turned to books, bibliotherapy, right? So that was my way of digging myself out of my midlife crisis and not knowing which way to go. So I spent an exorbitant amount of money on certifications, and I can clearly
Okay.
I won't tell you, but clearly suggest to you that the highest of the high, as far as in this way of life, Primal Health Coach Institute is it's up there. It's up there.
Okay.
That's the closest. But anyway, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, so education is first and
Yeah,
foremost, I agree. But I think
absolutely.
Primal Health Coach Institute would be highly recommended.
I
And I
love
think
to hear
that's
that.
the
Thank
one
you so
Nisha
much.
Berry went through too. Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I've been doing some research. It's not cheap to get these
Right. Right.
certifications, and
Right.
I still work full time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot. But ultimately, what I feel is like you, a call to help people, particularly with diet and nutrition. Because, and particularly, in the African American community, which I know about, we are being really directed toward a vegan and vegetarian lifestyle. We're being told that a plant-based meat that is full of chemicals is better than a piece of beef or a ground beef patty or a steak. And so to me, somebody needs to come and teach. Somebody's got to teach the truth. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm not a coach yet. I've taken one
Yeah.
class so far, but my goal,
Right.
that's my objective, to be in my retirement and prior to my retirement is to get that health coaching certification so that I can help the community. So that's my goal as well.
I
So,
think that is so beautiful, and you would be so awesome at it.
oh,
You're just a bright light already, so you would be
thank you.
awesome. And
Thank
then
you. Thank
speaking of
you.
the African American community, this is the thing. I, I've been on every kind of diet, Jenny Craig, vegan, vegetarian, flexitarian, pescatarian, every type of diet, right? But the thing about those diets for me was is I was always hungry. I was always obsessing, right? So maybe as brothers and sisters, we might have to be at the point where we've tried everything else and we're willing to listen, right? And not be the odd person out. So I don't know what that's going to take other than being committed to showing up in every way that I can and as often as I can, and being that coach, right? Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so important, and somebody's got to do it, right? Um, I think about, and I want to talk a little bit about becoming a YouTuber and how you decided to make that decision to speak out on YouTube about your story, and your carnivore way of eating and what you're doing on your YouTube channel, because somebody's got to get the message out there.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about being on YouTube.
So this is the deal. I had a YouTube channel prior to this one here, but it was just about my life, about my workouts and stuff like that, hanging out with friends and everything. And I had had a couple of interviews with other, creators, YouTube creators and whatnot, but it wasn't until I had an interview with Dave Mack last October, and I saw what he was doing, and he's actually a virtual mentor to me. I told him that a couple of times, like, oh, I'm seeing you, man. I'm seeing you. So after that, it was placed on my heart to just start, just start. It doesn't matter how bad it is or how good it is. It doesn't matter about the followers. So I started after that interview. And my channel's been through a couple of renditions because I wasn't really just sure what I wanted to do. And I'm not a person that thinks everybody has to eat the same way. How you carnivore is how you carnivore. That's your business, it's
Yep.
not mine, right? So I didn't like showing food every week, or I'm doing this every week, because it's subject to change, right? So in January of this year, I finally settled in to make a commitment to meet people virtually and to have interviews with people that are in transformation or that have transformed their lives through carnivore, specifically women that are 50 years old and older. Because I think by showcasing and collaborating and locking arms with other women, whether people can identify with me or not, maybe they can identify with somebody else that was a guest or whatnot. So that's what I do. I don't really share too much about me, myself, and I. It's more of every week showcasing somebody else's interview. Yeah.
I love that so much. And you guys, I'm going to be on Rose's show.
Yes, yes, she
She's
is. We've
interviewing
already
me.
interviewed. We've already
Excited.
interviewed. I love this. I love Miss Robin. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think it's the
So
last
yeah,
Thursday of this month, I think. Yeah.
I definitely appreciate what you're doing, because here's the thing. When I was coming into the carnivore community, I knew that I would start a channel. I thought my channel would be all about food and cooking, because I'm a foodie. I love to cook. And so, I started making some videos. I didn't put any videos out. But then I started looking around to see, okay, who can I watch that looks like me in the carnivore space? And there was nobody. Black
Yes.
Carnivore she used to be out there. I used to watch her all the time, but she was gone from the space. It was mostly men, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mostly white men.
Hmm.
Love you guys.
Yes.
but
Yes.
but there was
Yes.
nobody out there that looked like us that was talking about carnivore. And so that is why I have a channel. Is because I want to make sure that everybody, and representation does matter. Everybody understands that there is another option, right? and probably a better option than what you've been told. And that this food pyramid is upside down, and we need to stop looking at it as the truth because it's not. You look around, you see everybody's sick around you. And so that's why I have a channel. And so, and what I love what you're doing, what I love about what you're doing is that you're doing those interviews, you're talking to people that maybe somebody else hasn't talked to yet. Not everybody has a YouTube channel, and not everybody has been interviewed on somebody else's channel. And so it's just so cool because it's the documented stories that matter, as Dr. Kiltz would say, right?
Yes.
You need to get your story out there. We need to hear from you and hear how this carnivore diet and way of life is benefiting you. I love Dave Mack. He is such a cool guy.
I am obsessed with him in a good way. In a good way.
Yes,
he's a good teacher and a good mentor. Yeah,
he's doing the good work and getting these stories out here. I just love him. I love his sense of humor. He's just a hilarious guy, and he does the best interviews.
He does. He has that head nod, that patience, and notes. I'm like, I wish I could keep that quiet, but I can't.
Me too. Yeah. So there's a few people who have said something in the chat, and I kind of want to just bring a little bit of this up, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So there's a question out here from Christy. Hey, Christy at Meeting Wellness. And she wants to know, do you track or eat intuitively on Carnivore?
So I don't believe in eating intuitively for myself. I really don't. And yes, I do track. I use Chronometer. So if there's anything that was left over from my diet history and whatnot that was really good for me personally, it is the tracking. So the reason I say tracking is I just put it in Chronometer, and I don't worry about how much fat I'm getting, how many da-da-da-da-da. I just like having it in a place. And to be quite honest, I never look back. So I just put it in there, and just like with my workouts, I write them down in my log, everything that I do, but I never look back. So it's something that helps me. Yes.
That's great. That is good. I think it's, great to have a healthy relationship around tracking, and don't let it become obsessive. I know for me, that obsessiveness is very difficult. It puts me back into a headspace that I just don't want to be in, as far as my mental illness, I'll call it.
Yes.
Completely obsessed with tracking and measuring everything, and it fed right into that anxiety, the kind of my natural state of anxiety. So tracking is, so just don't let it become an obsession. That's all I would say about tracking.
Yeah.
So I want to welcome Julia Greenblatt, who became a member of my channel. Thank you so much, Julia. Welcome. So glad to have you here. And then she's saying that tomorrow is her 1 year. I'm assuming that's supposed to say carniversary. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah, Julia.
That is awesome. So Christy also has a son, and her son has transitioned from keto to carnivore, apparently. I might have missed the memo. Since February, he has a birthday coming up. She asked him where he wants to go eat, and his response was, what restaurant works with the carnivore thing?
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that is amazing. I love that, Christy. Thank you so much. And then we have a few people in here who are giving birthday shout outs. If you guys did not hear, tomorrow, September 1st, is Rose's birthday. And so Simpson is saying happy birthday, and Christy is saying happy birthday. And then there was somebody else there. Jamie is saying happy birthday.
Thank you.
And so we all want to wish you a very, very happy birthday.
Thank you.
So those are kind of the ones that I wanted to pop up. And so let's talk a little bit about your channel. I'm going to bring the channel up, and you can talk a little bit more about that. I'll share it here.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. Absolutely. So It's a real passion for me to do this because I love people so, so much. And I don't want women, like I said, that are perimenopause or menopausal to go through what I did as a crisis. And that if you can catch it early enough, meaning, you realize that it's the carbs, you realize it's your diet, along with the hormones, that you can have a better quality of life and not have to figure it out as hard, right? So I do talk a lot about eating disorders and eating disordered eating because sometimes people don't know where this eating thing stemmed from. And so for me, I know exactly where it stemmed from and the history and whatnot. And for some people, it could be a divorce or it could just be a rude comment that was made to them. But I think it gives people power, or they get empowered when they understand that they're not the only one going through something pertaining to weight and mental health and whatnot. So, yeah. And then also being an African American woman, and I've always been in blended communities where, I might have been one of the only people that looked like me in that community, but I was resilient. But it would have helped to have someone that looked like me in the space that I was trying to go to. So I'm committed to showing up, y'all. So look, y'all, one of the frustrating things, I'm going to be candid with you about YouTube, is that I need more subscribers. Okay, I'm trying to get to that
Yes.
thousand subscription mark before my 1 year anniversary, right? And it's not for me to make money because I work full time, but I just want to hit the land of 1,000 subscribers. So if there's anything that's frustrating, it's that, and I'm still learning how to use it and all that good stuff. But
Yeah.
can I talk about one more thing, Miss Robin?
Absolutely. I just want to say, if you are not subscribed to Rosa's channel, please go and subscribe to her channel.
Yeah.
She has 722, so we want to push her up and get her up over that 1,000 subscriber mark. Go
Thank you
ahead.
so much. So, Lynn at Midlife Carnivore and we both live in the Pacific Northwest. Thank you for doing that. We live in the
Absolutely.
Pacific Northwest, and she's about 60, 70 miles from me. And she had been on my show like in May, and I was like, well, we need to get together and yada, yada, yada. So, we co hosted a meet up at Green Lake in Seattle, a park in Seattle, and then we went to coffee and whatnot. So what I casually did, because I'm a natural connector, I like organizing things. I like being in control. Let's be real, Lynn. I mean, Robin, I'm sorry. Let's be
Ah,
real.
yes.
So
Yes.
I was like, you guys, we need to do something in September before our weather turns, right? And before, everybody gets whatever. So nobody
Mhm.
texted me anything. So this is where I was like, if I want to do the darn thing, I know that I can't rely on anybody else. It has to be me, myself, and I, right?
Yes.
So I created the Carnivore Connection. And with that being said, I'm going to commit to hosting quarterly meetups here in the Pacific Northwest. So the next one is going to be here in Tacoma on Point Ruston on September the 14th. It'll be a 5K walk. And then we'll do Jewel Cafe at 11:15. So for people that
Nice.
don't want to walk, but they want to come out and socialize, they can come have coffee, black tea for me, and whatnot. And then in January, I'm setting it up for a Brazilian steakhouse,
Nice.
in another part. So I want to collab with people and connect with people, but I just know that this is on my heart to be
Yes.
responsible to do meetups with the Carnivore Connection. So thank you for letting me
I
share that.
absolutely love that. Love that. Is that linked on your YouTube channel, or where can we
Yes,
find
it
out more
should be.
information? Okay,
It should
great.
be. Yeah. It's
So
in the link tree or just the carnivoreconnection.com. You can
perfect.
Google that. And then one more thing, if you're in Dallas, Texas, I will be there on November 9th and 10th. And I think it's the North Dallas, Texas meetup, MEAT up group. Me and somebody are connecting. So I'm hoping to have a meetup where both of our communities are meeting in a location. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But yeah, I'll be in Dallas, Texas doing that.
That is awesome. Okay, cool. You gotta let me know when you're coming close to Michigan.
Okay. never been to Michigan, so that might be on my list.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
Okay.
We have another question here. What advice would you give for adding weights? I've been stuck at the same weights forever, been lifting since January.
So being stuck at the same weight is actually okay because if you just started this year in January, I don't want to make the assumption that you know exactly what to do and how to increase your weights. The main thing at this point in time, I don't know how old you are, Jan, but what's your
Simpson.
name?
Simpson.
Simpson.
Yes.
I don't know how old you are, but the most important thing is that you're lifting the weights, right? So being stuck, have you tried incrementally increasing your weights by 2 to 5 pounds, doing, less reps with heavier weights? But I would just say if you are content and you're okay with the amount of weight that you're lifting, keep going, stay committed to that. And then when you're ready to step it up, but only do like 2.5, maybe 5 pound increments and shorter reps.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I just have one last question, and
Yes,
that
ma'am.
is, what else do you have on your heart that you need to share with the community?
What I have on my heart, y'all, is everybody just needs to eat meat, keep the peace, and
Yes.
love yourself. Because if you can love yourself, put your CPR mask on first and foremost. Don't worry about the rest of the world or even your family, to be quite honest. We as women, we want to be warriors. We want to be superheroes for everybody else except ourselves. So, my message to you and anyone else out there that's listening, put your CPR mask on first, mind your P's and Q's, take care of yourself so that you can go out and take care of others.
Thank you so much, Rose. We appreciate you being here so very much, and I'm going to be praying for you to meet that goal of yours of 1,000 subscribers.
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
it's right around the corner. And, I know that the Lord is blessing you. So I can see that you're doing amazing.
Yeah.
So I love the work that you're doing. Really appreciate you taking the time to be here on Carnivorous Grandma Speaks Women of Wisdom series. And Carnivore K just subscribe to your channel. So yay, Carnivore
Thank
K, thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to wrap it up for today. So if you guys are watching this on live or on the replay, please go ahead and share it out so everybody can get this message
Yeah.
and hear from Coach Rose. Go and check out her channel. The link is in the description box below. She's got information about her Carnivore Connection meetups and then her other meetups that are coming up in the near future. So thank you so much, Rose. We'll see you next time. Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
love. I appreciate it. Okay,
You're
bye bye.
welcome.